Hello, and welcome to The Thinking Mind. In a world full of noise, this podcast is a space for thoughtful reflection. Each episode explores questions about life, learning, success, failure, relationships, and personal growth. There are no simple formulas here and no promises of perfect answers, just ideas, perspectives, and questions worth thinking about. Today's episode is called Why Are We So Afraid of Failure? Let's begin. Imagine two people with the exact same dream. The first person tries and fails. The second person never tries at all. Years later, which person is more likely to have regrets? At first, the answer seems obvious. Most of us would probably choose the person who failed. After all, failure can be painful. It can be embarrassing. It can cost us time, effort, and confidence. But when many people look back on their lives, they often discover something surprising. The things that haunt them most are not always their failures. They're the opportunities they never pursued, the risks they never took, the dreams they never gave a chance. So if failure is often less painful than regret, why are we so afraid of it? To answer that question, we need to understand what failure means to us. For many people, failure is more than an outcome. It's an identity. Instead of thinking, I failed at this, they think, I am a failure. Those two statements may sound similar, but they are completely different. The first describes an event, the second describes a person, and when failure becomes part of our identity, it becomes much more frightening. Perhaps this begins when we're young. In school, mistakes are often marked in red. Wrong answers, lower grades. Poor performance receives criticism. Over time, many people unconsciously learn that mistakes should be avoided. That being wrong is something to be ashamed of. But life outside the classroom works differently. Many of the most valuable skills in life are learned through trial and error. No one learns to ride a bicycle without wobbling. No one learns a language without making mistakes. No one becomes great at anything without being bad at it first. Failure is not the opposite of learning. In many cases, failure is learning. Another reason we fear failure is because we fear judgment. Imagine giving a presentation, starting a business, publishing your work online, applying for a competitive opportunity. What worries people most? Often it isn't the task itself, it's what others might think. What if people laugh? What if they criticize me? What if I look foolish? These questions can be powerful enough to stop action before it even begins. Yet there is something interesting about human nature. Most people are far less focused on our mistakes than we imagine. Everyone is busy dealing with their own challenges, their own insecurities, their own fears. The spotlight we think is shining on us is often much smaller than we believe. Still, fear remains. Why? Because failure threatens something important, our sense of certainty. Human beings naturally prefer predictable outcomes. We like knowing what will happen. Failure introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. When we try something new, we cannot guarantee success. There are risks, there are unknowns. There is the possibility of disappointment. But there is also another possibility: growth, opportunity, discovery. The problem is that fear tends to focus our attention on what could go wrong, rarely on what could go right. Consider this. Every meaningful achievement contains the possibility of failure. Every business, every relationship, every career, every dream. If failure were completely impossible, achievement would lose much of its meaning. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage exists because fear exists. And perhaps courage is simply the decision that something else matters more than fear. There is another hidden cost to avoiding failure. When we avoid failure completely, we often avoid growth as well. Think about a person who never applies for a job unless they are guaranteed to get it, never speaks unless they are guaranteed to sound intelligent, never starts a project unless they are guaranteed success. Their life may feel safer, but it may also become smaller, because every opportunity exists behind a certain amount of uncertainty. Every new chapter requires a step into the unknown, and every step into the unknown carries the possibility of failure. Many successful people understand this, not because they enjoy failing, nobody enjoys failing, but because they understand that failure is information. It tells us what works, what doesn't work, what needs improvement, what needs patience. In that sense, failure becomes feedback, not a final verdict. Think about how children learn. A child learning to walk falls repeatedly, yet nobody looks at a toddler and says, maybe walking just isn't for you. We understand that falling is part of the process. Somehow, as adults, we forget this lesson. We expect ourselves to succeed immediately. And when we don't, we assume something is wrong. But growth rarely works that way. Progress is often messy, improvement is often slow, and success is usually built upon many unseen failures. As we come to the end of today's episode, I'd like to offer a different way of thinking about failure. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Perhaps we should also ask, what if I succeed? What if this opportunity changes my life? What if this challenge teaches me something valuable? What if taking the risk becomes one of the best decisions I ever make? The future contains many possibilities. Failure is only one of them. And sometimes fear causes us to focus so much on one possibility that we become blind to all the others. So here's a question I'd like to leave you with. If you knew that failure would not define you, what would you be willing to try? Take a moment to think about that, because the answer may reveal something important about the life you truly want to live. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me. If this episode gave you something to think about, feel free to follow the podcast and share it with someone who might enjoy it as well. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep learning, and keep thinking. This is The Thinking Mind.